Hello. Hey.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How's it going?
Oh, hello morning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I literally woke up by the time you text me, which is I don't know, at 8 or something.
me too.
Oh
I
my
just
God.
woke up too.
All right. So anything news about you? How have you been in general?
Um, Pardon? Can you say it again?
Is there anything new with you?
Uh, no, just the same. Yeah, and today what we gonna talking about?
All right. So today, our topic is about what is the best, was it political system? Or what is the best way to govern Mars colony, right?
Uh,
Yes, but before we get right to that, let's talk about the last week vote result of was it the next plate we should call home, right?
yeah.
It seems like we're gonna have our colony in space.
And I saw the result is uh
It's
orbit.
definitely in Mars orbit.
Yeah, is in my orbit. Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of caught me off guard a little bit as well.
Mm,
All right. So yes. Let we bring back some familiar face in our first guest of the day. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Nice to be back.
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to work that. Where's David?
Yeah, Peter, we are trying to bring David on the screen. So
Can you
everyone,
guys have a conversation a little bit while I'm trying to sort these technical issues?
Okay. Sure. What do you think about the new location gig for the colony?
I saw the results from voting polls. They would the result is Mars orbit. But as you know, I prefer somewhere else, like tennis, like tennis, no, or something like that. And which location do you prefer on Mars to colonizing?
I believe I voted for the Valles Marineris.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed like it had a lot of benefits, and the I don't know if you're living somewhere for like 6 months, it's better to have something nice to look at. So it would look something like the Grand Canyon out west in the United States, or it's something interesting, not just a desert. So that's not just resources, but that's why I chose what I voted for.
Mm-hmm. It's the place that you said we shouldn't be that gig.
Don't blame me.
All right, so I think we got David here now. So, hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Hello. It's going well. How are you?
It's going all right, just a little sleepy, and was having a little technical issues earlier, so that's why I couldn't get on live a little,
So
So,
technical
would you mind
and
introduce
functional
yourself a
issues.
little bit?
Yeah, so I'm David
Yes.
Christian. I'm a musician. I'm an advocate. I was a supervisor before COVID, all that kind of stuff. But I'm moving to Italy soon, so I'm moving continents. It's going to be really interesting. Moving to the birthplace of fascism. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens. Yeah, it'll be all kinds of
Whoa.
cool stuff. Yeah, I know, right?
Cool.
Yeah, it's time to become like a vigilante socialist. So we'll see what happens.
All right. So I guess before we jump right into what we're supposed to do today, I'm gonna put down some ground rule, which is, if possible, don't like if you have any questions, maybe like put your hands up or something. Be mindful about the time you use while doing your sessions as well, making sure that it's not too long and you're not talking like over other people. Other than that, we're cool. Today we're gonna be talking about a few political structures or systems, right? And I think all of us earlier, we each randomly selected a choices. So who want to say who get what? Starting with you, Daniel. So what do you get? Daniel?
Oh, I was randomly awarded democracy.
How do you feel about it? Are you ready?
Oh, we're going into the. I thought we were just going to announce what we got.
No,
Yeah,
we're not. I'm just like asking, like.
yeah, sure. I can just go into it if you want. No, it's an interesting. I can see. Oh, okay. I feel good. Okay.
Oh, okay. So earlier, I think Daniel told me that there has been storm as well. So maybe we have some sort of connection issue too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Right.
And
yes,
I have to say,
there's a massive delay.
Leah, one of the most offensive things about this so far is that you assigned democracy to somebody. That is not in the spirit of democracy. That is very monarchic. It's very authoritarian of you. And you're putting somebody in the position to be forced to defend democracy. They're not like autonomously choosing in the spirit of libertarianism.
The thing is, I want to make it a little more fun, and I don't want people to stick to what they know, right? So that's the point of,
Right.
like distributing all the topics. And maybe,
Sure.
like I think all of us, besides Kick, get something that we're not entirely advocating for.
Yeah, there we go.
So
Yeah.
So what do you got, David?
I'm in the very generous position, the very charitable position of having to defend republics. The great thing about republics is that they allow for greater representation amongst the populace. It's not like a direct democracy or anything like that, where people would literally be spending their entire lives voting on every piece of legislation. It would become its own job. You would have no workers on Mars because they'd either be writing laws or signing laws. So, but the thing is that you find a lot of parliamentary systems around Western civilizations, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in the United States, different configurations. It could be constitutional monarchies where king or the head of state is merely people still vote in their representatives, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm in the glorious position of having to defend something that allows for greater amounts of autonomy and representation. And you guys have to somehow defend draconian, dystopian, and disproven methods of governments that create terrible outcomes on a humanitarian basis. So good luck with that.
Oh my god!
I'm also just having fun, guys.
I feel packed and ready to go. All right, guys. Maybe it's three of us against David right now.
Yeah, bring it on.
Ready.
I'm ready for it. Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's have fun.
So what about you, Kick? So what do you got?
I got a dictatorship.
Wow! What a surprise!
I think it's contrast from my common sense, but okay, I try.
All right. So me, I got monarchy. So we'll see how that goes. So we're supposed to have another guest on here, but she wasn't feeling well. So she's not on here. So get well soon, ka, kun Bunny. All right.
Just out of
So-
curiosity, what was their the other guest speaker? What was her form of government?
Communism.
Oh, okay.
Yes. All right. Shall we start on this?
Yes.
So I'll put everybody names in this box. I'm gonna shake it, and then see who go first. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Daniel! So it's you!
I had a
Cool.
feeling you were going to call on me anyways. So
She's a monarch. She gets to do that. We don't even know
Oh,
if this
no.
is like.
I'm the queen today.
Yeah.
All right. Just wait. I'm gonna put up some pictures, I guess, that I prepped for this. You give me a moment. I'm sorry. It's just like I didn't sleep the whole night. And
Oh, really? That's too bad.
yeah, I couldn't sleep. I don't know why.
Is it really hot over there?
No. I think it's just I messed up my sleeping schedule somehow.
Because I'm pretty sure it's like half the reason why it's kind of like hard to sleep over here. So
Can you see? Wait. How do I do this? Sorry, guys. All right. Monarchy. What is it? No, democracy. Jeez. What is it, and then why do we need it?
okay, I guess I'll just dive right in. Democracy actually comes from the Greek, demos meaning people, and kratos meaning rule. So it's basically the rule of the people, basically to choose their own legislators. And it has a couple of core principles, I would say, which is liberty and equality. Actually, it's sort of interesting the way you organize the screens. I think democracy and republic sort of go closely together, and dictatorship and monarchy sort of. So it's almost like we have two teams, even though they're not like if you're looking at the screen how we are. Okay.
true.
So yeah, and I'm also trying to think of how you apply these government systems to space, because this is probably that's why we're here. But we could start here on Earth. Even with any of these systems, I could see pros and cons. And I guess I'll start with the main con of democracy is that it sounds weird saying this as an American, but it's almost too much freedom, and and I don't mean lack of government, like anarchy. I mean that without certain rules and laws, you just start to vote and majority wins on everything. One story could be like an old cowboy movie where you have this mob and they're fighting or trying to find a bad guy. They find him and they say, okay, you're guilty, we're going to hang you. Where that is a majority wins, there you go. In a republic, say, you get tried by a jury of your peers and whatnot. Now, again, if we apply this to space, where it's like, okay, we're running out of air, who gets air? Who gets kicked off the spaceship? That's also more serious, because it's not like you're spending a day in jail. You're floating up there. So yeah, like I said, with all of these, I can kind of see pros and cons. It's good to have a structure, but yeah, there's pros and cons to each of them, and I'm assuming this is not within the next few decades from now. This is when we're the colony is well established and self-sustaining, and you can govern yourself and sort of, I guess, independent from Earth law. So yeah, it's sort of difficult when you add space into it, but you know, you can base a lot of past experience on Earth and sort of hopefully avoid the mistakes that you've made. So yeah, that's what I feel about democracy on Mars.
So what do you think is going to be difficult, especially now that our colony is going to be in space?
Well, it's always difficult with majority rules, even though that sounds like a very nice system of organizing or of deciding things. You know, if growing up, if you're playing a game and it's like, okay, you want to do this, but majority wants to do that, well, then you're stuck with that. You know, there's no no buffer, I would say. There's yeah, like I said, basically in any of these forms of governance that we were given, I don't think in the purest sense can it actually exist and thrive for very long. So yeah, it especially when you're dealing with outer space. I mean, even here, but when you are dealing with Mars, majority rules could also be dangerous.
Cool. Anybody have any questions or want to jump in or giving their own opinions on this?
No.
Cool. So I guess we can move on to the next person then. And maybe we could, you know, talk more about it a little bit after. All right. So thank you, Daniel. Gotta make sure. Hey, so it's Geek. Can you see it? No, it's you, Geek. So go on. Tell us why would you go for dictatorship?
Okay. Dictatorship, right? Okay.
Here.
I don't think why we choose dictatorship. Okay. From what is this? Dictatorship is a system that rule people by not allowed to have a multi system idea, or that's just is like manipulate all media, everything in the country. So this is dictator. They manipulate everything in the country, so people will believe and respect what they say. So it's easy to be ruled. Why we have to choose dictatorship, right? Actually, I don't think it's a good question for dictatorship, because uh, in dictatorship system we don't have a choice. So
So
no reason, you just have to choose me because I'm a dictatorship. Uh, as a leader, if I'm a leader in this system on Mars, first I will manipulate all media, including social media. So they will so people on my planet will be easy to be ruled, and as we know, dictatorship punishing punish people who different or want some system does not. Dictatorship is a crime, is a criminal in dictatorship system. I will lock them into prisons. That's what dictatorship do, right? And brainwash people. hmm That's a dictatorship. Can
it seems like Kiki's not sugarcoat it at all. She's just gonna say how it is, and that's how it's gonna happen.
uh
Yeah, she's not giving us very much reason to want a dictatorship on Mars.
Yeah. Would you like to try again?
actually I don't have a reason that we should rule by dictatorship on Mars. But if someone have enough power to manipulate people to rule by dictatorship, we, as I said, we don't have a reason for that. We just have to choose them because they are our only reasons. You get it right.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, all right. All right, we get you. I'm gonna write down some notes and then maybe you can come back on that later. Okay, so it seems like it's oh, thank you, Gig. So it seems like it's me and David left. Let's see who's gonna be the next one.
Mm-hmm.
We all know there's only one name in that box, Julia.
That's not true. That's fine. It's David. Whoa. Okay, go on,
It's
David.
me. Okay,
Yes.
so let's talk about republics for a second. So I believe the first republic was established in 509 BC by the Roman Empire. It's basically a repudiation of monarchies, Caesars, all that kind of stuff. People who have basically exert tyrannical will against the will of the majority. And the really, really interesting thing about, I guess you could say, republics, democratized forms of parliamentary systems, electoral politics, all that kinds of stuff, that the countries with the highest standard of living and quality of life tend to have republics of some sort, representative governments of some sort. And the reason why I'm confident that you could essentially superimpose this configuration, this framework onto Mars, is because even, with all the variety and like cultural diversity on Earth, whether it's like, different population densities, whether it's different like cultural orientations, there are certain government frameworks that produce similar success rates and that produce similarly good outcomes for their populations, regardless of, geography, regardless of region, regardless of like, monoculturalism, regardless of like, culturalism whatsoever, regardless of a lot of different seemingly consequential factors. And that's because human beings have certain requirements that need to be met no matter where they are. And they're going to have those same requirements whether they're on Earth or whether they're on Mars. People like to have autonomy. People like to have their agency represented. And, people like to be able to enjoy a certain quality of life. And having agency, having autonomy corresponds with quality of life and standards of living. So basically, it's the form of government that historically has produced the best and most prosperous outcomes for human beings, for populations, all that kinds of stuff. And it's empirically substantiated by precedent and history, and by pretty much every categorical way of quantifying these things. So it's like literally it's probably the most successful and also the most virtuous government configuration possible. So really, I guess it's just like a bit on the basis of evidence. And I don't really know if there's much more to say about that. I would even like go so far as to say that, when it comes to republics, it may be a tyranny of the majority. I would actually also submit a motion for Mars when it comes to the economic configuration, to have a dictatorship of the proletariat as well. So tyranny of the majority and dictatorship of the proletariat. But that could also be something we expand on further or not. But yeah, I suppose that kind of summarizes my enthusiasm, my substantiated, legitimized, empirical, and factual enthusiasm for a republic. Although I'm sure that we'll hear like a very like tyrannical and like apocalyptic appeal to monarchy from Julia in a second, and I have
There's
to like,
no way.
I have to implore everybody to like not think of what she's offering, but think of what you will lose if she wins, if she's able to contaminate your minds and commandeer your soul, because that's what she's going to try to do. She's going to try to say, I know better than all of you. I know what's best for you. No matter what you say or what you think, I will coerce you into outcomes that they think are like
Do
better.
I need this
Yeah. So I'm just preparing you guys for like the inevitable argument for monarchy, because that's what monarchy is. It's like imposing their will upon other people. So prepare yourselves. That's all I have to say. Preparation, age yourselves, guys. It's going to hurt a lot.
At least you'll have a crown, right? Jewels are pretty.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. Also, Julia.
After we
sure.
after we manage to mine some sort of rocks in the outer space, we're gonna turn into something somehow. So a crown, Julie.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I'm sure that Julia is going to be a space fascist. She's going to be like a Robert Heinlein fascist, where like she's like a benevolent dictator. And those are like, I mean, like, let's be real. We all want like some kind of like space daddy telling us like what to do, right? So that's not just like media sense.
What the heck? How did we get from there to here?
I'm just saying, it's space monarchy. It's different, right?
All right. We'll see what I gotta say, and you guys can decide for yourself whether if you want to go with monarchy or not. But personally, of course, I'm in these live sessions, I have to be pro monarchy. So let's jump right into it, shall we?
Checking whose name is in that little box.
What? I mean, yeah. Okay, fine. Daniel?
I appreciate it.
Yay.
Oh,
So
she did it.
I can't wait.
Very fair monarch so far.
Yeah.
Let's see how long it takes for you to be corrupted by power.
Your vote counts, but there's only one name on the ballot.
Sorry?
True.
It was a joke.
All right. Don't be too rough on me, guys. I'm like, I just literally woke up.
We're just kidding.
Maybe less an hour of sleep. All right, okay. So monarchy, right? So what is it and why do we need it? Okay, so as it's said on here, it's a political system based upon the undivided sovereignty or rules of a single person's, right? And there's two types of monarchy. One is absolute and one is constitutional. And today I'm gonna advocating for the constitutional monarchy one because I don't want to go for the absolute one. Otherwise, it will be too similar with a dictatorship. So with the constitutional, the one that most recognizable is the one from the was it English monarchy, right? Where
You found a loophole.
maybe. So yes, it's not entirely about having like the entire power to yourself. Yes, I mean the queen or whoever in charge do have that power, but when you have something as old as the constitutional, like there's still some sort of law or rules that bind you to a certain things and allow you to do a certain thing as well. So you can't just I don't know. Let's say if the Queen of England start coming out and start just be executing people, I don't think that's allowed. I mean, it could, but it's gonna cause a lot of conflicts, and I don't think it's gonna turn out really well, right? And then also, the monarchy is not supposed to interfere with politics, and and yeah, and okay, I'm gonna go right to why should we go for monarchy as well? And for me, there's three main reasons. One is a sense of unity, right? Like if you watch any films or even based on history as well, it's when you trying to define a single nations, right? Sometimes you associate it with architectures and all those palaces and then all those sort of thing. It's when you be able to build something like that, it's actually take a lot of many different people into one single ideologies, right? And establish that. So it's good. It's kind of something that people could, I wouldn't say look up for, but it's it be able to hold people a certain way. And then also I don't know, let's say anybody ever watched Thor, his planet is his mom and dad is queen and king, right? And then the palaces and the entire planet look fancy AF. I'm just saying, we just doing it a lot better with styles. And the second is born leader, right? So it depends on the constitutional. If we're going for the English base here, it's they're supposed to be trained to handle pressure, how to handle themselves publicly, and then not just go out and then show the imbalance of giving too much of their own opinions that would cause any conflict. They're supposed to just reflect the people, right? And yeah, just stay out of it most of the time. Most of the time, because when you don't. And thirdly, stable and balanced. And what do I mean by that is that, when you have a single person or a line of successions or family, ruling for a really long period of time, right? When the next person come, the transition is much smoother because you know them, their family. It wouldn't come in a shock. Let's say if it's a president, right? Let's say from Obama to Trump, from Trump to Biden, is such a drastic change, and people could what's going on. With monarchy, you don't exactly have that at all. I mean, there will be more or less favorable one, but the transition is still something that you recognizable. Let's just say that. So yeah, I mean, of course, besides from putting a lot of power or sort of symbolisms into one single family, but I think it's it's much needed as well. When you're going into space, like sometimes you needed somebody to take on that like higher responsibilities, and sometimes you also wanted somebody to carry those weight as well. And I think monarchy could do that for the people. And that's it. That. So yeah, guys, go for monarchy here. So what do you say?
Dictatorship. If you don't like freedom, come for me.
Sorry?
No, dictatorship. I mean, if you don't like freedom, if you think your life have too much freedom.
Yeah. But here's the thing, though, is like, okay, so how is it not as dramatic to pass from one generation to the next? I mean, like, imagine like you're going from somebody like Han Solo to like Kylo Ren, right? Like we invoked some fantasy elements here. I mean, like those are pretty like dramatic, drastic like variances of psychosis and like personality type. I don't think necessarily like a loss in stability is dependent upon like going from like Obama to Biden, but I think it's actually because you actually get to like you get to make the choice to elect stability and to have like a certain like ideology like carried out. But like it seems a lot more destabilizing to expect through like like a random genetic lottery for somebody's kid to have like ideological or moral consistency with their dad.
No, but the thing is, like,
that seems like a lot more turbulated.
But you can say that with pretty much anything, with any types of leader as well. But with monarchy, you're just hoping that person, based on your constitutional, right? You just expect them to live by the constitution.
You're basically like, and you're betting on like a 1 in 6 billion sperm race that they're going to like faithfully represent the sensibilities and the characteristics of a dad, which is like a very astronomically unlikely, I guess you could say, expectation to have. But I think it's interesting. I relate your guilt to constitutional monarchies because like constitutional monarchies are basically flaccid dictatorships, where like the head of state or like the monarch has no control or power over the populace whatsoever. Like I remember my old Norwegian girlfriend would talk about how like basically the best thing that the monarch of Norway had to do was walk his dog on like some like crazy Norwegian mountain, and that's like where she like met him. He like didn't actually have like a lot of like executive demands. He didn't really have much role in like the government. He was walking his, and I think that's about as much power as like any dictator or monarch should have. Like they should like they get to like control their own lives, but like controlling other like people's leave it to someone else.
I don't know. I mean, of course, they get a chance to have a normal life too, right? Like, who doesn't? Just because you're like a monarchy doesn't mean you can't walk a dog, like,
I guess sort of to argue for monarchy, it's also very romantic, at least coming from a Western mindset. We have all these movies about the medieval times with knights, and you're serving the lord or the king or whatnot, and it's like that's kind of cool. And I can see as a country, it is sort of unifying, like you were saying, where probably if it's like, all right, guys, we're going to Mars, it's going to be like, all right, let's do this mission. Where if your motto is like for king and country or for queen and country, it's like, okay, you have another little unifying force behind you.
Because like it's just like it's like having that one person encourages you to, like you said, romanticize it, and making living in a place that could be quite difficult for both mental and mind. I think it could like help ease that by lots as well.
I think no matter what, you do need a chain of command. Like as David was saying about how Republic started with the ancient Roman Empire, that sort of balance between freedom and law, like if you have no, let's say, law enforcement, you're always having to defend yourself from whoever. So you appoint someone, let's say a sheriff or whatever that is on Mars. You don't have to worry about your stuff. You can go farm, you can go out, live your life. But I think what happened in Rome was people sort of forgot about what it took to get there. And so they got very comfortable. And that sort of led into more between democracy and then sort of anarchy. And when you go all the way in that direction, you had the birth of the Caesars, the emperors. You need this person to unify everything. And then, so you go to one extreme and then you go to the other extreme. I believe I said my point, although I probably forgot it. But
yeah, but I mean, with monarchy, right? It doesn't mean that it's like it's have to be the king or the queen that rule it. It just, we can still have the chains of command as well. We could have a representative, kind of like,
and you can almost, a true monarchy doesn't, of course there's someone at the top, but he has advisors, or even a dictator has their lead party members that they entrust duties to, so it's more of a oligarchy, if you will. You have a very tight group of people at the top, as opposed to, because that's also very hard for one person to control every aspect of the colony or of government.
Yeah,
so
it's like the interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. It's, but well, okay. It's like the interesting. I think there's like lag or delay.
Yeah.
Because like where people like do that, but the interesting thing when it comes to I guess structure and like hierarchy and that kind of stuff, it really seems to depend on where we have things structured and where we have things more liberated. Like if you were to like look at the Catalonian like syndicalist experiments in Spain in like the 1920s and the 1930s, they're a very good example of how by divesting themselves from too much structure, that ended up being very costly for them, because they ended up being destroyed and basically overrun by the Stalinists, the communists, and Franco, the fascist in Spain during that time. And while they were able to abolish and get rid of hierarchy and bureaucracy, when it came to their social lives, their everyday common lives, their military clearly needed more structure, because you had too many workers who couldn't really tell their left foot from their right foot, and they couldn't produce a single rifle during wartime. So it is important to have a certain amount of structure and proceduralization for those ends. When it comes to things like the workplace, certain structures have proven to actually disincentivize productivity and disincentivize a lot of things. So for me, when it comes to like hierarchical structure and proceduralization, I really like the idea of leaving decisions in the hands of workers instead of like a CEO and like in the traditional firm framework. But when it comes to other aspects of society, things need to be a little bit more regimented. There is a good argument to be made for like chains of command and stuff like that. So it's all about basically configuring and identifying where structure produces necessary outcomes, and where different configurations lead to both greater levels of liberalization and economic outcomes as well. So that's kind of my thing. It's just all about, like, you know, being very, like, impartial and meticulous about how things are structured. So
I think what I'm hearing, sorry.
If I could just, one thing I was thinking, because it's Mars, and it's open to basically everybody right now. So you could sort of play God with statecraft, if you will, or, you know, the building of governments. And, you know, when you think of like workers and mining, whatever minerals, and honestly, I don't know if we will mine, that just all the movies say we're going to mine. So, but however we collect our resources on Mars, you know, we have, I lost count, but like 4 rovers up there right now driving around. So we can, you know, if you give the labor to robots, that frees sort of that aspect of government control. Like, you know, oh, are you treating the robot correctly? Just replace the battery and that's it. You know, you don't have to worry about robot rights. You know, this isn't Matrix. But I do see your point with yeah. Now I'm thinking a little too deep. If you make life a little too easy.
Yeah. Automated workers and people just kind of pursuing, like, that's a very, like, Marxist, actually, I guess you could say, final solution, although I don't want to invoke anything to Third Reich, but it's yeah, that's kind of the end goal of a lot of Marxist theory, which is very interesting, to automate so that people could kind of pursue their own ends and not have to be kind of, I guess you could say, subjected to the alienation of demands of the workplace and stuff like that. I actually think it's very aspirational. It's like very like Star Trek Federation of you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please, Julia.
Oh no, I think the themes that I'm keep hearing is that, you know, there's not going to be a one single way to rule or to run, you know, like colonies, like off-world colonies, whether it's going to be on Mars or on other planets. So definitely it's going to be a mixture of things. On the reasons post on Mars colony that I did with my friends, I think we came up with a mixture between meritocracy and democracy system. So everybody work and they perform, like, everything is based on merit, right? So you have to earn to engage in political stuff. That kind of like give some sort of rules for people to actually work hard to participate in politics, but at the same time, you're also trying. Yeah.
People are like entitled to their surplus value. What they produce, they receive.
Yes.
That's cool. And like, so like, as the monarch here, I'm just a little bit curious, like, how would you make a pitch for you being the monarch to Mars? Like, what awesome things are you gonna do? Like,
well,
as like
the thing is, because like, well, for me, my own visions I have for Mars, I feel like, yes, it should be an extended of Earth, but I feel like, you know, like I always said in previous live as well, I think you should start thinking like a Martian. And when you have that thinking like a Martian pops up, like now you have to define like how it's going to be. I'm sure, of course, whatever's wonders or architectural going to happen on Mars, you know, it will happen through evolutions or times, whatever life that evolve on Mars, right? But with monarchy, maybe that could the concept of building a culture specifically for Mars I think monarchy could actually help enforce that to happen. So now you have something entirely, completely different from Earth, right? Of course, it's the same mock-up, it's the same system, but now it's on Mars, it's gonna be looking much different, because when you send people out, to Mars, you don't really think about this. You just, thinking about survival resources, right? But with monarchy, you enforcing culture and be like, okay, this is how we're gonna look now. This is our empire or whatsoever, and this is ours. It's not just, yep, I'm just gonna dig whatever gems or resources and just gonna go back home. Bye, guys. It's actually could be a good reason to make a life like an actual living on Mars. But yes, I'm also aware that it's a lot of power for one family. But yeah, like you're talking about, you don't trust decision making to the CEO. You have to listen to the worker, right? But a good CEO have to know every bits and parts of the company, like to actually help the company moving forward in the best way for both the company and the people who work for the company as well. And if the monarchy could do that, it could be cool.
So, as an experiment, since we are sort of heading in that direction, at least space travel, let's say Elon Musk, okay? I understand some people, especially those who work for him, sort of deify him. I may sort of be, I'm a fan, if I see him, I'll walk over there and shake his hand. But if there's like a Musk family to rule Mars, it was sort of like, it's a weird parallel to draw, but when the first president in the United States, George Washington, after we had our revolution and we became what we are, a lot of people wanted him to be king. But a lot of the founding fathers, well, him and other founding fathers said, no, we're not going to do that. We're breaking away from that. So, Elon Musk is getting us to Mars. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be him. I think it's going to be him, and with NASA and whatnot.
Yeah.
But would you say, okay, King Musk? Or would it just be like, thank you, sir. Now we're going to do our own thing?
You ask me?
Just in general, your thoughts.
I don't know.
I mean, just imagine what somebody named King Musk was like. I'm just yeah.
I guess you have to base on current information as well, right?
Because if you think about it, we all had to defend our certain government systems. So you're thinking of it as you are the monarch. But if we think of ourselves as the citizens, it's like, okay, I'm going to go to the monarchy of Mars, or the kingdom of Mars, and I'm going to live there. Like in all of our systems, instead of thinking that you are the top person, how do you think the colony would be like if you were just a citizen of the colony with your...
Well, if it's system? King Musk, right, I know for certain that the productivity is going to be off the roof, because I heard that he's quite brutal, right? I think I heard somewhere that when COVID happened and then they don't allow people to work in California, he just moved to Texas and built a factory. So, and I mean, now he's dating Grimes, right? So she's pretty artistic. Right. I don't know, maybe she can help him build some sort of palace.
Do we want to check the? Do we want to check the percentages when it comes to productivity? When it comes to more, I guess you could say, hierarchical forms of structuring our businesses as opposed to less hierarchical forms. So like what you're basically advocating for, and this is just information. I'm not trying to say Julia wouldn't make a great monarch, because I'm sure she would. It would be really cool based on.
We're on to Musk now, so I'm off.
Okay,
on
well,
Musk
you're
now.
off. But just when it comes to like deciding whether or not it should be Musk, who's like, I guess you could say, commandeering our lives. So there's some really interesting studies when it comes to less hierarchical business structures, especially when it comes to productivity. So I guess like the idea that's very common is that when there is that kind of like, I guess you could say, traditional firm structure where there's one CEO at the top, things are more productive. But if you actually look at worker cooperatives, like in a 2004 study, productivity improves by an extra 4 to 5% on average in the year an E is adopted. Higher productivity level is maintained in subsequent years. And virtually all research points to higher productivity rates or better performance indicators than traditional firms. They found that employee participation has a significant effect on job satisfaction, motivation, and labor productivity. There are a lot of studies that actually really kind of, I guess you could say, substantiate the idea that ourselves of like that kind of potentially tyrannical structure in our businesses, we actually incentivize more productivity because every employee kind of like has a share in the company, so everybody has like a vested interest in the survival and the growth. So it's kind of interesting. That's just a researcher's contention with. But I would be interested to see what King Musk has to say in the face of research.
Actually, yeah, like with productivities in his company, right? A part of it, it's also from how the worker there also have a percentage of, things, like have some sort of ownership to the company as well.
Yeah, for sure. So, but it's really interesting how these incentive structures may challenge some preconceptions about what really encourages the most productivity in the workplace. So just something to think about. But at the same time, hey, if I was going to like vote for like a monarchist would be Julia, like hands down. So
All right,
it wouldn't be a
think,
vote, would it?
Guys,
but like if I was.
So if we like to avoid talking too much about monarchy, I think there's one topic that we haven't covered, which is communism. Anybody have any idea on communism?
Depends.
At all?
Important.
Yes, it's said that a system in which goods are owned in commons and are available to all needed. I do have a little bit of information on that as well. But first off, anybody have any ideas of what is communism?
There are a lot of different forms of it.
Yeah.
There's some like more like anarchist forms of communism, and there are some that are a little bit more like centralized. But in a lot of cases, it's basically the elimination of like class, and it's the social like ownership of the means of production, that kind of stuff.
I heard
so,
that.
But
the intentions of having communism is supposed to be something good, right? Because they wanted to make everybody's equals and distribute all the good like evenly.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it really depends on. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, it just really depends on the configuration, and like the idea of like a classless society is very interesting. How it would actually be implemented and what that delivery system would be like is something that is not even really, well, it's entirely like theoretical. So there are some cases that can be made for like workers owning the means of production, because the research actually does legitimize that opinion. But yeah, when it comes to communism, not quite as determined. So.
So Gig has questions. What is it?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know much about communism. But in my opinion, it sounds like dictatorship. Is it the same thing?
No.
It's basically the system which allows a dictator to be accepted very easily, if that makes sense. So, like we were saying with anarchy, sort of the timeline goes from republic, democracy, anarchy, and then it's like, whoa, people are going crazy. We need order, and they're begging for order. And one opportunistic guy is like, okay, I'll be your leader. So I think that's where we have emperors in the past and dictators, if you will. But yeah, it's basically like a good summary is probably that little screen that you put up. Basically, yeah, if you want a very basic analogy, you could almost say camping. All right, let's go on a camping trip where we have to make this work. So okay, a colony on Mars. It's like, all right, we are all trying to support the system. We're all trying to survive. So again, it's hard for me to defend communism.
Yeah.
I
got some pros and cons that I could talk about. So for gig, I could say that, the pro for having like communism is that, it may help, closing the gap between the poor and the rich, right? Because everybody basically the same now. And assurance of supply with medical equipment, good like food supply is also assured. And enhancements of the education infrastructure. This one I'm not so sure, but it's on the list, so we'll see. Social goals are more important than the goal of a small elite. Lower unemployment rate, and it said it's supposed to reduce like social tensions in society, and also avoidance of like corporate monopolies.
Yeah.
And it said that absence of classes may reduce the problems of discriminations of minorities. Everybody get like a similar chance to succeed in life. So basically, it's supposed to be a system that equalizes everyone. But like Daniel said that, it's also favorable, like for someone who have a tendency to be a dictatorship to take over control and, sort of.
Can I say something interesting about that? It's kind of like, well, the interesting thing is that, like, whether it's capitalism or communism, there are state and anarcho forms of both. Like, I guess you could say like anarcho-capitalism would be more of like the libertarian like configuration of it. And that's where like, you have like very few regulations. That's like, it still has like a favoritism towards like traditional firms or whatever, which are kind of like inherently authoritarian, but whatever. But like, state capitalism would be a little bit more like government, federal or state intervention when it comes to like a lot of like safety regulations, all that kind of stuff. In the same way, there have been examples of communism where the state interferes more, but there have also been like examples of communism where the state has almost been like entirely abolished and only positive rights were basically maintained. And in both, like, I guess you could say in the most stateless forms of libertarianism and the most stateless forms of communism, there is a threat of, maybe like a single figurehead ascending and then like exerting like tyrannical control over like a population of people. But that's kind of like a ubiquitous human failing that can exploit that loophole, whether it's anarcho-capitalism or whether it's like, anarcho-communism. So communism actually is actually the socialized ownership of means of production, which means the government doesn't own it. The people are supposed to, but there's always going to be a looming threat of people who want to claim more than what they should over the lives of others. But that threat is as prevalent and pervasive under capitalism and in its anarcho strains, or communism under its anarcho strains. So it can happen either way. But yeah, basically, it's that's what it goes to, in my opinion. So.
But I mean, for Mars, like, do you think it's gonna be good for Mars? Because I mean, for Mars colony,
Yeah, no idea. There have been very many successes of libertarian economic configurations, and there have not been in terms of communist configurations either. So it's all very experimental. I would feel a little bit more comfortable with something that's been a little bit more proven.
I think that like people who work on Mars or off-world colony would like wanted to have more of how do I say, a better welfare, right? Like good welfare and stuff, and maybe communism could help on that, because it literally ensures that, like nobody is left behind, and they are being provided with whatever they need.
Yeah, there's a little bit of hope in that, where like that kind of welfare could be provided without communism. Like if you look at like the social democracies in Scandinavia, they have very like robust like welfare systems, even though they're still kind of capitalist in function. So it's like, it's not that necessarily communism is necessary for that, but certain things like, democratizing the workplace, I guess what you would call market socialism, can provide similar welfare sources and like expand liberalization. So that's just one possibility there. Yeah, I don't mean to talk too much about that. You have fun.
I just say I am not, yeah. We always say not to get too much into it, but we always get too much into it. Diametrically opposed to communism, just from, I guess, past bias and present examples. I'm half Cuban, and so there's plenty of evidence why that doesn't work. And of the communist countries that I have visited, I don't know if I've ever been like excited to be there.
Just one question. In those countries, in those countries, what percentage of workplaces were owned by the workers and not like a CEO?
You mean in the communist countries?
Yeah. So like in those communist countries that you may have visited, in those countries, what percentage of businesses were owned by the workers as opposed to a CEO or the state?
Well, I'm guessing that your question is in argument of pure communism.
Well, it's just that one of the aspirations of communism is not for private ownership or not for state ownership. It's for socialized ownership. So that would mean like, workers having like a share in the company, or like the workers. So in a lot of countries that get labeled socialist or communist, there don't tend to be a high percentage of workers owning the means of production. But if workers don't own the means of production, they actually don't fulfill the aspirations or requirements of communism. That would more like what you're describing is kind of like more like state communism, but that's not really what Marx or like a lot of libertarian socialists aspired to. But you're right when you say that state communism has led to like humanitarian disaster, or like Stalinism has like led to humanitarian disaster. So we definitely don't want to like replicate those results on Mars. But communism it's a little bit more like, when it's more faithful to like its original intent, has like the workplace is not owned by the state or by private ownership. But it's just an interesting distinction. So yeah, hey, China, fuck that. Don't put China on Mars. don't put the Soviet Union on Mars. That would be bad. We agree about that.
We lost Julia's audio.
Yeah, she's
Hey,
still
sorry.
talking.
I was like, hey, China's gonna be there. China's definitely gonna be there. Actually, I'm quite interested to see like what kind of generations of people it's gonna be, because eventually we're gonna mix, right? It's gonna be like India, probably gonna try to get to Mars as well. There's China's, there's like the US, so it's gonna be interesting mix of people. All right, so let's move on. Yes.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, and maybe one of these discussions you can incorporate movies, because they are very good examples of a myriad of things. You know, we were talking about production and stuff, and you remember the movie WALL-E with the little robot, and people just have their floating armchair and they get fat because they don't do anything. You know, I think when people think of like the future in sci-fi, they think of like the cartoon of the Jetsons, where everything's cool and, you know, everyone's in shape, but we could just be floating around in wheelchairs getting fat, you know?
It's like we could either go like the route of WALL-E or Star Trek. What's it going to be?
Yeah. or like we said in previous chats, The Expanse. Yeah. Where I don't think they really got into what was going on Mars. It was just a military planet.
Yeah.
But
no, but I mean, like they're pretty much like, you know, having to do it purely for survival. So they have to get trains and they have to get fit to defend Mars, because they don't want Earth to attack it again or take it back or, you know, whatsoever. So it's really really necessity based for them to be the way they are.
Yeah, but and we may have covered it, but as you were saying with the argument from monarchy and culture, how something it's a sort of a cliche term, but organic would form on Mars. Let's say a Martian governing system or Martian culture would form that would be separate from Earth. Or it could just be an extension of Earth, you know, because right now we haven't touched Mars. The only interaction is little robots. You put humans up there, you know, you're taking human nature into space. So it's very likely we're going to copy what we've been doing, because it's what we're familiar with and it's what we know. But again, it's the future, so no one knows. Yeah, so which came to our last choice, the, you know, Ricket. So yeah, it's gonna fall down under like anarchy, because, you know, I think I kind of leave it to the audience as well, because like we said, there's gonna be other political system or structures that best for our colony. So whatever that is, you know, it could, I don't know, whether maybe there's no government, everybody just, you know, there for themselves. Who knows? Now, in an argument for that, because we have argued how pure anarchy leads to chaos, or is chaos, and that's not desired. Well, by people who know what anarchy is, it's not desired anywhere. So the only way I can see it surviving is if you become like a hermit. You know, I don't know if you guys know what that means, but you're like a little old man. You live in the mountains and you do your own thing. So if you apply that to Mars, you give me a little space bubble, and I build my house and my little farm. Okay, I'm by myself. That's fine. But
Yeah.
when you mix other people, that's when it gets interesting.
Yeah.
Mm.
We
All right.
got a comment.
Do we?
We got a comment from the audience.
Oh, hey. It said it's
Yeah,
Anak is
It's-
attractive,
it's
but
attractive.
yeah.
Let's
But-
But you know what?
end
That's what I say about so many people on Tinder.
What a good comparison.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I think when I was kind of like doing research about it briefly, it doesn't entirely mean that it could. There's still, just like anything, there's many different types of, like, was it anarchism? Is that how you call it? How you pronounce it?
Anarchy.
Anarchy. Yeah. So it could exist because somebody just doesn't like what they have right now and they wanted to change it, or they actually feel like they're being mistreated and they have to make some sort of reforms or revolutions. So it's just like it could be anything.
But like I haven't seen the movies, but like The Purge, I think it's called,
Mhm.
where you remove all the laws, and that's what's going to happen. It's an old. I don't know if you'd call that philosophical, but it comes down to: do you see people as good who sometimes do bad, or do you see people as generally bad who sometimes do good? And that's a lot of whichever way you go on that. That's a lot of trust to put on people. So yeah, whatever the colony is, whether it's Mars or whether it's the New World, back when they found America. So, who knows? I think, like Hun Narucha said, it's attractive, but I don't think it's going to end well.
Because you can't rely in space all by yourself unless you're like, get all the resources you need and, I don't know, have a portal gun and can breathe in space.
Yeah. And same thing when we had that conversation with Brent. It's not just going over to an island where no one exists and you start something there. On Mars, there's no air, there's no atmosphere, there's no all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So, but we also have 10,000 years of history behind us. So it would make a lot of sense for us to, to go with a game plan. And I could see it as being very dangerous if we don't.
Yeah, definitely. So before we wrap this up, anybody like had any other things that they like to talk about that would be beneficial for like our Mars colony? What about you, David? You got any other systems that in mind?
Man, I don't know. I guess we just I think that'd be relatively safe and responsible to think about what's already been proven to work and bypass a lot of political obstacles to implement things that have proven to work that just haven't been proliferated on a national level yet. It's kind of like, with Mars, you kind of get like a clean slate. Like, you don't have as many, political, I guess you could say, stubbornness from like, certain populations of people. Like in the United States, we have a lot of people who stand in the way of like things that have clearly already like been proven. On Mars, you would have like a new culture and stuff like that. So it might be easier to start fresh with new ideas. But that's pretty much all I have to say about it.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys good for us to end it up right here? But before that, I'd like to ask, for your own opinions, without not having to do anything with whatever we're advocating for today. What would be your ideals, your ideals political structures or systems on the Mars colony? I mean,
I don't know.
I would just go first, I guess. I mean, yeah, I mentioned about meritocracies and democracy. It's like a combo between two. I think that doesn't sound too bad. The reason why it shouldn't be like meritocracies all by itself is because, just like democracy, if the majority of people voting for certain things, let's just say, all of a sudden people who live on Mars be like, we do not wish to accept any more people from Earth, and then the vote passes, and then now we can't accept people like from Earth because the majority on Mars say so. That could be really messed up, right? So definitely, distributions of power is always great because it do bring innovation. Democracy do bring innovations. I don't think, like fascisms or dictatorship do push innovation as well, but I don't think it in a way that prosper really well.
Well, you can be very prosperous, and if you're not, we'll kill your family.
Yeah.
That's the motto of gig. But yes, there's thankfully when we're going into this new humanity, I would say, we do have plenty of history and good and bad examples to fall back on. So
what about Geek?
Yeah. Okay.
Girl, focus.
For me, actually, I don't know much about political system, about monarchy or everything. I think in some way, each system is perfect for it's good, in some way it is bad. I think we might mix it together and create a new system that better than every system and do Mars. It may be a good idea. What about you, David?
What happened?
What about you? What would you advocate for? Like, based on your own opinions.
Well, I'm an intersectional market socialist, so I guess, but I also believe in republic and liberalization. So I guess I would say tyranny of the majority, dictatorship of the proletariat. That's about it. That's about it.
Okay.
All right. So we good? We good, everybody?
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me back.
Thank you for coming back.
Thank you so much, Julia. Julia, you would make a great monarch, by the way. I would be less resistant to that than other monarchs, I think. So, yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you. So we're gonna post the voting poll, so don't forget to go and vote for that as well. And hopefully we'll see you next times.
And buy Julia's stuff.
Oh yeah, and buy stuff. Actually, hopefully.
Thank you.
Oh, bye. All right, guys. All right. Take care. สวัสดีค่ะ